Hey y'all, I'm Robbie Herring and I'm here for Flying Unicorn tonight, and we're going to make a canvas, and it's something that I put together using the authentic, I think it's Everlasting collection, and a 6 by 12 canvas. And I'm going to start with a couple of announcements. First off, don't forget in the Ustream store or in the Flying Unicorn store, there's a Ustream special tab, and there's 10% off the things that I use in the show that are on the show that are in stock. And also, don't forget that next week we'll be here at the same time in the same place, and it'll be Karen. So I'm going to do what I warned y'all about and move my camera down, and we're going to hope for the best. Hang on one sec. Let's see. Once we get it set, we should be good. Hey, how about that? Not too bad. I was expecting it to go all over the place because trust me, it was. It's a little crooked, but let me do it one more thing. I think that's close enough. You can see it's a tiny bit crooked. But so here's what we're making. It's a 6 by 12 canvas. I'm going to scoot it up so y'all can see. And I worked a lot on my focus today, trying to mess with it to make sure maybe it would be better than usual. So we're going to hope for that too. But you can see that it's just a simple canvas that I did, whoops, and don't hit the thing when you're showing it. Sorry about that, y'all. I added some beads on a wire so you can hang it. And I purposely did not use a photo this time, but this is just a frame. So for yourself, or if you want to, or if you just want it to do like something you can hang or display, that's fine. But you could also easily add a photo. I'm gonna work on this one more second, y'all. I'm sorry, I told y'all this has been giving me fits today. Okay, so let's get started, and I will walk y'all through the process. So to work ahead a tiny bit, I went ahead and I added gesso to my canvas. And the reason that I did that was because I'm going to be using a Martha Stewart comb today to give us our background. And oh, one more little thing. I think I was talking to some of y'all, I'm not even sure where, and I said that I'd burned my hand real bad and had an ugly boo-boo. And we had joked about having a Band-Aid contest, and so somebody suggested bling, so I did this just for y'all tonight. Figure you're better a blingy Band-Aid than an ugly open blister where I burned myself. All right, so to start off, like I said, this was gessoed with clear gesso, and I used the Art Basics from Prima. And then the first step we're going to do is we're going to add some green because I wanted it to match the colors that I was using on my project, on the embellishments and all that. So I'm just going to add a tiny bit, and I decided that to use the clear gesso so that when I put a second layer over it, when this is dry, it will still like not move. It'll be in a gesso base, so it won't have any movement to it at all. And so to get the green that I used on the leaves and things, I didn't have a bloom spray, a color bloom, or anything that perfectly matched it. So I decided to mix a little bit of emerald and a little bit of sunshine with my gesso. Let me shake these up a bit. Should have done that a little bit ahead of time. But as usual, I did not. Oh. And so just a mist or two, and then a little bit of the green. And then I mix these up. I mix this up to get a color that, and I'm going to add a little bit yellow. You're going to eyeball this a bit. It's not going to be a perfect science. I've got to quit putting the lid on. I'm so used to putting the lid back on that I'm doing it before I even need to. So, and I'm just using a clear paper plate for the show. I would normally probably even just be doing it on this because it's easy, but it works well for the show, so I don't have quite as much cleanup. Hang on one sec. It occurs to me I didn't plug in my dryer. Okay. So, to start, this is going to work kind of like a glaze. And if you look at this, you can see it almost looks like a glaze. And you can do these techniques, especially this technique, with a glaze. Might get it a little bit darker so you can see it better. You can do it with a glaze, but a glaze is a really long drying time. And I felt like this would give me a quicker drying time for this type of project because we've established in the past I do not have a whole lot of patience. Okay, this is a little more color, so hopefully you'll be able to see it a little bit more. And also, this is a bit watery because we've added the spray to it, and that's not a bad thing. Still have, there we go. Now we're getting some color. I still had too much of the white on my brush. And what I did was I just put it in some random spots. You can do it anywhere you want. There's no right or wrong. And I started with my layering. And before it's dry, you want to do this while it's still wet. This is this comb, and you can just pick these up at any craft store. And I ran it through to give myself some stripes. And so I think y'all can see that pretty good. We got a little bit of a glare because it's wet and glossy. And I just gave myself some stripes. And I'm going to add a little bit. And of course I touched it because I always do. And I'm even going to put just a little bit of the green on the sides. But I'm not going to worry too much about, and you can see I'm moving it. And that's okay because we can run the comb more than once, as you just saw. So let's give us a little bit more so we make sure we've got it where it's going to show through. All right, and I'm going to run it right here again. And then you can even take your comb and add a tiny bit more. This doesn't work as well, but I just want to show you. You can move it just like I wanted to add a little bit. You can put it directly on your comb, but it definitely works better if you do it this way. Put it on first. All right, so that is the green layer. And we're going to have to dry it a little bit. I'm sorry, it's gesso though, so it'll dry pretty quickly. And not only did I not plug it in, I've got it all hooked on my cart somehow. Okay, we're going to dry this a bit, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add a bit of the pink. Everybody's eating again. I've noticed we're always eating on this show. And this needs to get pretty dry. I hate that it has to take a bit, but it needs to be pretty dry so that this color will stay and show up behind the next layer. Chocolate. Now that sounds good. And for those of y'all who may be watching this back, there's a chat going on, so if you haven't before, you can join us live, and you can chat with us during the show. So I am reading what they're eating on the show. Okay, we're getting there. It's getting drier. I don't think, after these two layers, there's not really any more drying time, so that is a good thing. And the next one, we won't have to wait as long. All right, I think we're about there. I'm going to hold it. Okay, that is, I think, good enough. All right, so the next thing I did was I wanted to use that same comb, and I wanted a layer of the pink to match. So, of course, don't forget to wipe your thing off so you don't keep pushing your green around. And for this, I just used, you'll know I go back to this a lot. It's a soft pink. It's Cotton Candy. It's also by Prima. It's the Color Bloom again. And for this one, I just sprayed it on. And this gesso is going to, still a tiny bit damp. If it doesn't move as well, it's because I'm not letting it dry probably quite as much as I should. But you can do it even in sections, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to keep moving and give us some more stripes with the pink too. The other neat thing about gesso and having the green and the pink in the clear gesso is that if you've watched before, not just myself but some of the other girls, you know that gesso makes things very forgiving on your projects. So if you really end up with something you don't like, you can take a wet paper towel and wipe it right off. And so you can see now I've got both the green and the pink layered. And for this, I am going to take my brush and I'm going to add a little bit of pink with my paintbrush, which I got to clean because I didn't And for gesso, I use an old brush. And you can see I'm going to have to dry this. But I'm going to pick up some of this pink on the side and add that because I want some pink on the sides too. Because especially if you display this, people can see other sections of it. So not a lot, but just a little, just to give it that color. And you can see that because I haven't dried this, I'm losing my stripes. So you definitely want to dry it. So now we're going to get it dried so it'll stay. And this dries really quickly compared to the gesso's quick, but the color bloom definitely is quick. So we'll give this just a tiny bit of dry to keep our stripes, and then we'll put this aside and move to the next thing. Okay, let's see, let's give it a tiny bit more. So that is our base, just as simple as that. I'm going to move it up where you can see it a little closer without the glare. So you can see I've got the green showing through, I've got some of the pink. It's blotchy in places, and that is totally fine. And it's actually not quite as blotchy as it appears in the photo. But you can see, while it's damp, if you want more, you just keep adding, you just keep taking your comb and combing it till it's dry, and you're just going to get those shapes right back in. All right, I'm going to set that aside. The next thing is, I totally forgot to get 3 sheets so I could show y'all exactly what the full sheet of paper looked like before I got started. So y'all are going to have to laugh with me a little bit. So this is it's Authentic Everlasting Collection, and this is the abiding paper. And you can see a little bit of it here that I did not use. And what I did, you can see where I've cut out and fussy cut it all, and I'm going to show you those pieces. I figure y'all all know how to fussy cut, and probably the last thing you want to watch me do is fussy cut because it takes a while. So I went ahead, let me get my paper towel and dry this off so I don't get it totally wet. I went ahead and I fussy cut it, and I got started. So I chose these 3 pieces, and I have a couple of extras here that I just have in case I need them, because you know how when you're creating, you don't always end up with exactly the same thing twice. And you can see here, and I'm fixing to show you how, I've even colored some of it ahead of time. But when I look at this paper, when I feel the authentic paper, it really, in some ways, it's like porous, and it reminds me of watercolor paper. And that got me to thinking that I could have a lot of fun treating it like watercolor paper and taking a simple black and white and gray, it's got some cream in it, and turning it into something that would match the flowers and the vision I had. And here you go. There. Now it's getting a little more focused. If we get too blurry, y'all tell me and I'll put something in. So to do this, you need a fine brush. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways. And there's even more. I mean, there's so many ways to use products that we all have in our stash already, or that we love and we want for other things to do with watercolor. So this, I use the ginger coral because I'm going to use the debutante flowers, and this is a perfect match for it. And all I did is I took it, and this is just a fine brush. This one happens to be the new Prima one. And I went ahead, you don't have to have any talent because you don't need it, because we're going to just follow. And I wish this is a little closer, but I think you'll be able to see well enough. If not, I can move the camera, which is a bit scary. All right, and I just used it and started tracing the tips of all the flowers. And you can see this is super fast. You don't need a lot. Because this paper is porous, you actually don't want a lot. If you can see, you can't even really see it on my brush. I'm barely using any to do this. And if it bleeds, it's okay. Which reminds me of another point to make, is that when I fussy cut this, can't hold my hand steady. When I fussy cut this, that's clear. You can see that I did not go right up to the design. I left some room because I knew I was going to watercolor on it, and I wasn't quite sure originally what I was going to do and how far I was going to go. And I wanted to make sure that, because this is so delicate, it still had a little bit of space. So if it bleeds in or out, you're totally good. It just does not matter, because they've already done all the work with the beautiful design for us. by doing this. And I only left this section, and you'll see why, because as quick as it is for an hour show, it could get a little monotonous watching me do this. So we're going to do, and you can see I'm just tracing around it. Let me show you up here real quick. So you see, it's not anything, there's no perfection involved here. It's basically giving us a hint of the color. Whoops. And it's wanting to roll a little bit on me, so. And y'all should know, while I'm doing this, I cannot see the chat at all. So at some point, maybe I'll get to join in. But I do have my phone, so I know that probably more than one person has my cell phone to give me a shout if something's wrong. Okay, a little bit more. Takes just a little bit. See what I mean? It's probably a good thing I went ahead. Another thing is if it will bother you, you probably should move this away when you're misting, because I got a little splatter on it, but I still think it looks pretty. And you could even color all this cream, and I mean, you could go all out doing this. I just wanted to show y'all a couple of the different things to use. Almost done with this. And the good news is the green is a lot faster. But I really like how this turns out. Okay, let's show you the pink real quick. So that is it on the pink. There you go. So you can see, I was thinking that it might have paid off all that messing with the focus, but it's not wanting to focus perfectly right now. Okay, and I'm going to leave that there just for now. No, I'm not. I don't need it. All right, so you can see why I used just a little bit. Now, next thing that I did was I have these Prima. These are the Scenic Route or Route, depending on where you live and how you want to say it, watercolor pencils. And what I've seen some girls do this, and I like doing it, and I've done it on paper, and then I got this, and I have found that if you do it on here, and you're just going to scribble to give yourself some color, and I know there's a bit of a glare there, but hopefully you can see it. And then I'm going to give it a tiny mist of water. I need to clean that brush a little bit. Now, when you do the mist of water, I don't know if you could see online, but I did just a little bit, because how much water you put in this is going to determine the vibrancy of your color. And if you put too much water, your green is going to be more water than the green, and it's going to wash it down where you're not going to be able to see it as well. So with this, it's the same thing. I'm just tracing the green parts. And I'm saying tracing. I'm not being careful. This is just basically going with the lines they did. It is not perfect tracing. But I didn't want it to end up real solid. I liked the idea of leaving it a little loose, a little freeform. And let me show you this one up close. Okay, so let's see. I think is it going to go in? That focus doesn't like me. But I think you can see it. And this I just did the little bit. And y'all will see, if it weren't for the fussy cutting, which does take a while, and this takes a bit of time, but not hardly any, as you can see, this would be a super fast project. And it's still not bad because even with the fussy cutting, you're not having to be perfect because you're leaving yourself that leeway on the outside. Okay, let's give ourselves some little stems. And you could even take this further and add brown. There's some woody looking areas. I didn't, but you could. And then the other idea to think about too is that you could even use your chalk edgers with a bit of water added to them to paint with. And maybe even, I like to add water to them when I'm using them, but you definitely could use your chalk edgers, anything like that to help color these. And so that's all on the coloring since I've worked ahead. Uh-oh, my stuff is going to turn green because I just dropped it in my plate. Okay, now, so here are the pieces. Oh, I need to get rid of that color. And that takes care of all that layer. So next thing I did is I took, this is Resist Chalk Edger Tin Can. It's also from Prima. And you can see it's just a gray because I wanted to keep this soft. I liked the soft look after all this was done. And I did not truly do a lot of the edges on this part because my color's already there. But I did think, and I think you will too if you do this, you do want some on this part that is just a rough cut edge with none of the color added. So that was what I concentrated on. I put a tiny bit here and there on the other, but didn't really concentrate on that. So you do want to ink these pieces, and obviously the edge. And this is just a soft gray, so it's not even much of anything. Now we're getting some focus maybe. Need something black, I think. Let's see. See if we can, this is covered. It may be too much glare to make it focus, but maybe that'll do it. Yeah, hopefully that'll be better. All right, so same thing with this. I added just a bit. It looks like I still have work to do on my focus. I thought I had it all figured out because of course it worked perfectly when I was working on it today. And same thing, just giving it a bit on the one part and then concentrating on just the rough cut edges. And I have this little piece too that I didn't put any color, but I wanted to have this lace too. Whoops. Okay, so those are our fussy cut pieces. I knew there was something else I needed. Let's not forget this. Before we start the canvas, let's do, and I forgot to bring my die to the table, but these are the Prima leaf dies, and they're terrific. As if you follow my work, you know I use them all the time. And I did the same thing with them, and I totally forgot to bring the die to show y'all, but I know you can go look on mine. And I'm not even sure if Alda has them in the store, but I went ahead and added, you could either use the two colors together like I showed you with the two bloom sprays, but I just used the pencil for this too. And I'm going to use my yucky brush just because it's sitting here. But I just die cut them ahead of time, and I used the same, I added the same green to them. And I'm going to add a little more water to this because I'm using a bigger brush. And all I did was just add a bit of color. Whoops, that's that. I just wanted a hint of the color. And you may have to add more because, like I said, I'm using a bigger brush, so my brush is eating more of my color too. But I would rather scribble one more time than have to take more time with a smaller brush. That would be my lazy side. Okay, one second. Let's get a little more. I need a pencil sharpener too. I'm almost flat here. But I will tell you that you don't run the pencils down very quickly because I have not sharpened this pencil yet, and I have done both of these projects now with what I needed to do, and I haven't even sharpened it. Excuse me. So the stuff goes pretty far. All right, back to the canvas now that it's totally dry. And I forgot about one thing that we are going to have to dry a little bit more. I was thinking, that's it. This is one of the new Prima stencils. It's not, I say new, it's not the brand new ones that they just started showing, but it's pretty darn new. And this is the Tuberoses stencil. And I did add a little bit of gesso to this canvas, or not gesso, modeling paste with the stencil to this canvas. And I'll show you. It doesn't show much, but it does add just a little bit more detail to this background. And so I do want to go ahead and add it. And I am using the opaque matte modeling paste from Prima. I know Alda has, I think she has some others in the store. She may have this one in the store, but I know you can go look. And again, I did not worry about exact placement, but I did pay attention. I had previously, because when I was working on it, I knew I was going to use the frame. So one thing I did do was make sure that I tried to get it in places that it would show. And this corner is pretty full, but you can see that that it will show on the edges. I'm going to add a little bit over here. And I'm doing a thin layer of this because, again, we're just giving a hint of extra pattern. And I did, whoops, I say that, then I add a bunch. And this is behind the frame, so I'm going to do, a lot of this will be covered, but the parts that aren't, you can see this looks great. It's another layer over the top, and we'll dry this a bit. And then if you get it on the edge, because it's not an exact science, just use your, I forget what this thing's called, spreader thing. How about that? Thingy. I can't believe that I can't remember. Nothing like being live and losing your names of your products. This paste is the Prima, hang on one sec, let me tell you, so I'll tell you exactly right, modeling paste. It's opaque white. So it does not dry like totally stark white, but it definitely does dry white. Okay. And let's add a little there. I think we're good. Let's see. Got a little spot there when I picked it up, but that's not a tragedy. All right. So that is the layer that I should have dried. And I'm so bad about cleaning these, but I'm finding that they're so hard to come back to clean that I'm going to take 1 second and wipe this down some. And the gels I have found, if you don't clean immediately, they're very difficult to get off. And I don't want to ruin my stencils. So that is definitely, I'm pretty neat, and I have to have my room neat to be creative, but I'm really bad about cleaning my stencils and stuff. So let's get the dryer out real quick. Another thing is, being thin, this will dry pretty quickly. And then we'll get started on all the finishing touches, all the fun, the really fun part with all the flowers. I'm going to get this started, and then we'll do the frame. If I can find it. There it is. That one little part I said isn't a big deal is bothering me, so I've smooshed it down a little bit. Okay, This is still damp for sure, but not too bad. So we'll finish drying it because we'll let it dry a little bit while we do this. Okay, I have a tendency, these are at Michael's, and I am obsessed with all the frames. I know you all have them in your scrap stash. I'm pretty sure everybody has resin frames. You can pick these up. Sorry, I should have opened this beforehand because it is loud. I'm forever picking up these frames. I have the Prima resin frames. I have pretty much just anything. But with the look of this paper, I loved this one, and I had it, but I don't want to use this, and it goes back to the glare. So what you will find is that you can pull these apart, and you can see I'm just doing this with my nails. It's not any biggie. And I pulled all the inside stuff out. And you can see here, you can just keep pulling on it till it's gone. Now, don't feel like you have to get it all off. Like if there's some of this paper on the back, that doesn't matter. But the reason I'm making sure what I do have off is all of this plastic that might show from the front side where I don't want that plastic. So here we go. So you can see how easy that was. Truly easy. And then, I don't know if Alda's here or not, but let me tell you, she would hate what I'm fixing to do. This is inexpensive black paint. And you want a teeny tiny bit of it. That's all you need. In fact, that is way more than I need. And I honestly do this, y'all, and I decided, be real, this is how you do it, so do it. I put a little of this on my fingers, and I just like the control I have better using my finger to accent this type of thing. I don't make as many mistakes as I do with a brush. I don't, my finger's pretty flat, so you can just go with it that way. I may have to have bling on my finger every week now because I'm kind of digging it. It keeps catching the light and catching my attention. So I'll have to challenge the other girls. They're going to have to get their bling on. And you can see I'm just running my finger over the raised part of this frame. And there you have it. That is it. So barely any, and this is acrylic, so it dries super fast. Let's get a baby wipe and get rid of it. And also, since it's acrylic, it's fairly easy to remove. So clean, and it'll come off your mat. So you're good to go. So there's my truth. I really do use my fingers. Okay, let's see. Let's give this a tiny bit more drying while it's here, and then we'll start building this. Where is it? Go. I feel like I'm kind of all over the place tonight. That's getting there. All right, I think we're done with the messy. Uh-oh, there we go. There's the focus back. I think we're done with most of the messy. So we're going to get rid of this thing that glares back behind us. And I'm serious, y'all. I know I talk about it all the time, but I still can't believe I waited so long to buy one of these. If you don't have one for mixed media, anything messy, it is just the best. Okay, now, I used this same paper. And I purposely, you could put a photo in here. I chose not to. So I used the back side. The front has this pretty stripe, and the back has this pretty plaid. And what I did was I wanted it to be the plaid. So I'm going to trace on the back side so that I don't have to be neat, because I'm also not going to cut it neat. So just anywhere on it, because the plaid's the same on the back. You can line it up and make sure it's straight if you want. And I cut it out this way. Where are my scissors? There they are. Okay. You know what? I said this was fast. I see I need to speed it up. Okay. I'm not cutting close because I circled the inside and I want to make sure I have some glue room here. So you want to leave yourself some space around this, which is why I said, and nobody's ever going to see this, so go for it. Okay, and then y'all know I like my Fabri-Tac, and I like to go, you can see I still have the cardboard on here, but I do like to go on here so that I don't get much glue on the front part of my paper that's showing. It really doesn't show, but I like to try to avoid too much glue on the front. And then since my writing's on the back, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to have glue. And I'm going to straighten it up a little just to have it pretty. And there we go. And then what I also did was, if you put a photo in here, you probably want to use foam dots. But I'm not, mine don't have a photo, so I'm not so concerned with that. So I used, in fact, let me look here. Let's go here. I used cardboard. What you want to do too is when you cut your cardboard, you want it to be big enough to hit your frame. Your paper is not as sturdy as your frame, so make sure that you maybe even overcut a bit, and then because you can always cut it down. And this is just a piece of cardboard off some box, and y'all all use this stuff too, I'm sure. So it doesn't cost us anything if we waste a bit. Let's see, let's go here. All right, and maybe about right here might be close. Let's see, nope, still got corners. And these little pieces you can use for your flowers or what have you down the road. And I'm just going to give each corner a little snip to speed this up. But by making sure that it hits the frame, it's going to be, your support will be on your frame, not on your, not just on your paper. So it'll stand up to the test of time. And I'm going to get this glued here. It can be drying a bit. Okay, now we're going to set that aside, and now we're going to attach this stuff. I'm actually going to refer to my previous canvas a little bit. Doesn't have to be exact, but I'm looking at our time. And this, you could use anything to do this. I did not care if it was completely stuck down, so I'm going to go ahead and just use the Fabri-Tac to glue this down because I like to turn up the edges and things like that. You could also use some of the gels to, any of the gels to put this down. But I did not feel that that was, for what I was doing, you know, just whatever I had in my hand was good. So, and this is simple here. And I think I'll put it about right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm not going to worry about pushing this down because here, now I'm going to attach the frame. And that way, let's get some glue on it. And in this way, I let it, I can layer this up over it too. So I don't want to waste this, and I like the way it fits in with your clusters. So here you go. So now we're going to put our frame, and then I'm going to touch it down to where it looks nice, but you can bend it. And if you're having trouble with it bending, you can just give it a little spritz of water and it'll bend real easily. And when it dries, it'll dry more in that shape for you. So let me show you that. Where is my water bottle? Here you go. So, and then you can give it a little bend. And even this little bitty piece, that'll give it a bend. I thought I got rid of all the black. I didn't. I have it on my fingernails still. Okay. And then, let's see, here's this piece. This is another one of the big ones. Same thing. Now, this one is not going to be layered up over stuff, so you can go ahead and flatten it down when you do it. But again, if you wanna have a couple of pieces that pop up, that's good too. It's totally up to your own personal taste. Let's see, how about right there? So here's what I'm saying. So if I don't do the whole thing, I can turn this. You know, you could distress these edges, but if you do, I'd be pretty careful because these are so fragile. These are not big pieces that can handle much distressing. And then here we go, this piece. And I'm going to save the piece that was on the frame. And the reason being is I want to start the flower clustering before I add that one in. So here we go. Let's put it, how about right there? That doesn't line up. Good. And one of the other things too is that what I meant by that doesn't line up is I don't want anything that's exactly straight. So the top of this is a little bit higher. And don't ask me why, but I like things a little bit offset. So that's what I did. And then we're ready to start embellishing. And we're going to go ahead and embellish first and then add the beads. So let's do the embellishing. Actually, you know what? I take that back. Let's add the hooks before we get too many things going on. These were in my husband's toolbox, and they are called eyelet. I think he said eyelet hooks, because I said, you know those things that screw in that have a round thing at the top? And this, again, I did not do an exact science, and I'm hoping this canvas works to do this as easily as the other one did. But, whoops, I'm going to have to hold that frame a little bit. I probably should have done this before I even did the frame. But I just screwed them in. And we'll pray they go in. The last ones went in, and that other canvas just popped right through that wood. I think these are probably just balsa wood, the base of these frames. And of course this one's not going to go, but it is going. It's just not going to go quite as easily. Other thing is, because of the weight of the beads, and so this will hang straight, you don't need to measure it, because I certainly didn't on that one, and I'm not on this one. But I would kind of make sure that you're pretty much in the center here. And then here's the other one. Let's see. How about 2 fingers? 2 fingers. How about right there? So you can see I'm getting close to the same spot, but I'm not where we're in. And then these are obviously all these pretty things we play with, and these are not one of them, these hooks. So that's why I put the ribbon on them, because I wanted them to be covered. But once we get this on here, we can go ahead and embellish. That way everything will be a little flatter. So see, that's all we got. And we'll probably have them going this way, because once we start putting the wire in them to hold the beads. Okay, so I've already mentioned that I did use debutante flowers, and I used just a few things. The wood piece is from Little Yellow Bicycle, and these are already pre-cut, and they come with all different sayings. And instead of worrying about having another, this time I think I'll use memories, but you can see that there's all different kinds in here. And I do need this one more time real quick, and I'm not going to get it all out, but I used this same gray that I'd used on the edges, and I just I just let it here. And you'll see, actually, let me get where you can see better, because you can't see if I'm out of the camera. It's going on a little dark, but that wood will kind of soak this up, which is kind of neat, and it'll soften a little. So I did that. That's what I used for the word, and we're going to do a different word again. And then here's the flowers. I think this collection, I love these colors, and they sat beautifully on this canvas with these papers. So I liked that it had the gray and all that. So this was, of course, super simple, just layering. One thing I did do, and I'm going to dump. So I choked myself starting to laugh. All right. Because this is pretty high, and you can see here the height, I did add to the back of a couple of the flowers. Let's use the skinnier. I added a little bit of cardboard to hold them in place, to raise them up so that they would fit nicer. So we're going to do that, and I'm going to stick with pretty much my original design. Oh, let's do some leaves. So the other thing about the Fabri-Tac is it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. So I'm going to just start gluing this down. But if you want to move it, you can still move it. You've got a little bit of time. Dries quickly, but it's not like obscenely fast where you're like committed for life if you don't like it. And on this one, I know my flower is going to go about right here, so I'm going to tuck that under a tiny bit and then attach my flower right on top of it. And then I'm going to add this one. And so this one's up high, so this one I'm going to do directly down. And all this at the end will be covered with, all of it at the end it'll cover it enough that you don't really see cardboard or anything. There's beads, there's ribbon, there's all kinds of things going on that make it all pull together. And then let's see, I can't remember. I don't know why, but for some reason I'm wanting to do them the same. Or at least have an idea since I'm low on time. Okay, here we go. And then same thing here. Where's those green ones? These I'm going to do, these are the smaller leaves. Another thing, if you follow me, you know, for whatever reason, I almost always do 2 leaves. And like this one's in my way, so I'm just going to tuck it back under here. Because I'd rather stick with the original idea and have some flowers here. And have this one still be within. The other thing is too, and actually I don't even know if I did this, but I'm not liking how flat that one's turning out. So let's put a little bit of chipboard tucked under there, because we are going to put flowers here, and we can make sure our leaves don't lay flat, because these particular leaves tonight, whoops, got that a little too far. Let's move it a little bit out. They want to lay flat. Okay, so that is the part, and then let's see, we're going to add, let's see, I use these flowers, and you can mix these up and do your own kind of clustering or however you want to do it. These are just ideas for you. All right, let's see, here we go. And let's do pink. And then this one goes here. Whoops, there we go. I think my glue for some reason is a little bit, I'm so bad about leaving it open if I get distracted. I'm good about closing it, but sometimes I just get distracted. And I think on this bottle, because it seems to be a bit thick. And this was the one I wanted to weigh and make sure that I got it under. And you can see what I was saying about, I wanted to make sure I had some of this fed in here. And I got a little bit of string there. And again, I just touched it. I didn't really worry about doing the whole thing. So here's what we're getting so far. And then let's see. Actually, let's see what we got here. I think I like this. Yeah, let's use this little one. Okay. I'm talking to myself, but I'm not humming yet, so we're still good, right? Okay. And then these, let's see. And I didn't bring one over here, but y'all know I like to put this on paper. I normally like to put this on paper, and then I can be just dipping these in, but I did not bring, I could use some of my other, probably some other just paper laying here, but, and we can also bend these. Mine are still a bit damp, so they're not real straight or real stiff, but you can bend them, and you can even go back and bend them a little bit. And then let's see, again, what I used. Okay, and these are also the roses. And I'm a rose freak. I love any kind of roses. So I love the round ones. I love these. There's not many that I don't love. So you can see how it's starting to come together. Let's do that. And remember what I said. I'm just going to set it there, and you can always move it a bit if you need to. I'm going doesn't want to work for me. There we go. Okay, giving this a little pinch to get it. There we go. And then let's see, I used a green one. I don't know where it is. I don't seem to have one in this package. Okay. What I got here? Actually, I think I'm going to use, let's see, I think I'm going to use this pink one this time because I've already got this. So let's get our other leaf here. They're not going to be exact because I'm already changing it up a tiny bit. Okay, so we're going to have this, and I may end up moving that. We'll see. And I'm going to use this pink. And for the clusters, what I'm doing is I'm just pushing them together somewhat. Instead of just have them lined up, I like having them pushed together. And then here. And so you can see if you just hold it this way, when you almost can pinch it a little bit as you go. And yes, I'm purposely saying that a little bit better than normal. Little bit less Texas in that word tonight. Okay, here we go with this one. And just keep tucking in. I'm following my design, but again, you can do it any way you want. That one I don't think I have enough glue on. Doesn't want to stay. Okay, and then we need some over here. Let's see, here's some more. We'll put some more leaves. That noise, I find that air coming out of it is so annoying, but I do. I think I must have left it open in it because it seems a little thick tonight. Hopefully y'all all hang in there with me on it. And see what I mean about having a little wiggle room? I didn't like how far out those were. I want them to kind of be part of this, not floating out there by themselves. Okay, oops. I'm going to have black paint, and let's scoot that around, and glue on my fingers. We'll see what else I can manage to get on them before the night is done, because so far I'm on a roll here. All right, and let's get that. That is all the colored flowers. And then this is dry now. And what you want to do is just find your spot where you want to put it. And like I said, I really think this would be great with your favorite photo in it, and it would be something you could display. You could do a message in a guest room. Do a little welcome sign if you wanted. There's all kinds of ideas what to do with these canvases. And I'm just giving it a touch on the edges. And this being wood, it's not going to be something that's going to get bent if you touch it or whatever. So you just need it, just enough glue to make it grab. And I'm actually going to tuck it in a tiny bit. And actually, I didn't get that glue quite in the right place, so should have paid a little closer attention to where the glue needed to hit. And then so that is our flower base for it. But of course, you know, you always want to add more details. So, and I pulled out the ones with pearls just in case I was running late. And since I am taking a little longer, these are also Prima flowers. These are the Pura. And I chose to use the ones with the, with the pearl centers. But there's all kinds of different ones. And y'all, it looks like we're going to go a tiny bit over, but it won't be much. Okay. And then these, because the rest of it is pretty quick. If you can get your glue out, you're really good. And we're just going to add a touch here and there. And you can see I'm trying to tuck them here and there, and these you can tuck. And this is another reason, so I can curl that up, tuck it here, and have the leaf over it. So it's all bringing it together as a whole instead of each thing being an individual item. And then the last thing I did for this section was I used these, they're also debutante, the brads, and I tucked in a few of these. And here we go. Doesn't matter which one, you can see. I steered away from the blue and went with stuff that really just kind of went, but you could even give it some pops of color here and there. Whoops, I'm sorry, y'all. And my camera has moved, I can tell. Let's see, but hopefully move my project. Okay, and these I like, especially when I'm tucking them in, I like to just bend them and start adding a bit of glue, and then they tuck in just so easily. And it allows me to have them at an angle if I want. You can, of course, cut off the backs and do that as well. It's totally, again, up to your personal preference. Excuse me. And let's see, how about... And this you're just going to want to eyeball and just do it however you choose. And I'm just going to add one more because you can add as few or as many as you want. It's all the right way. Whoops. Of course, you prefer them to stick to your project, not your fingers. And you can keep adding, and that's the beauty of these brad packages and the flower package, is that you can really go all out because there are so many things in it. So that is the front. It is truly that simple. And you can see there's lots of things going on. Now, let's get to, I'm going to scoot all this out of my way, and I'm going to show you the beads. Okay, these were, and I've got one in a package. These are inexpensive glass beads that I picked up. I already had the green ones, so I'm not even sure where they came from. And I did black, and I did pink. And I'm going to put them on this plate so they don't roll totally around on us. And then this wire's not very big. I mean, very thick. So it has some give, but I kind of like that because if you're hanging it, if you want it real thick so that it's hanging perfectly, get something thicker. But either way, it'll work. The other thing about this is not being too thick is a lot of the glass beads are the center, the hole to put your thread or wire or whatever is not very large. So definitely be aware of that when you're choosing your wire. And these I did, again, very randomly. Whoops. Let's see if I can get them off. I did not, I didn't really even pay attention to what order, but I did want to use my 3 primary colors. So let's just do a couple and a green. And see what I'm saying? Because like this one side, oh, there it goes. Had to push it. But if this was any bigger, it would not fit through the green ones, and probably not even the pink ones for that matter at all. This time I think I'll do 3. And then we're going to add a pink. These little plastic plates are so good, and if you're using them, they're more pricey than a paper one, but I'll tell y'all that if you're using them and you're not on camera and you get up, they'll wrench right off and you can use them several times. And that's another reason I really like to use them, because they're definitely not very expensive. do, let's see, let's do a green. Okay, so there are our beads. Move those out of my way. And then again, I didn't even really tell y'all, I just did it. But you're going to wrap this through. And like I said, you could do it, and you would need more beads than I'm using here. You could do it tight and do the whole thing beads. I decided to leave a little room. And all I did was I just wrapped it several times. And you could use a crimping bead if you're into jewelry. I know if you're a jewelry maker, you know exactly how to do this correctly. But for my needs, this worked just fine. And I wrapped it around. Okay, so everything's really pretty except these ugly eyelets, which brings us to the last thing, which is my favorite, the Hug Snug. And this is the seam binding. Let me move some stuff out of the way so I can show y'all. Okay, and again, you can do these however you want, but I did these this way, and I just tied a couple of shoestring bows. You can do a fancier bow. This is the way I chose to go. I think it's amazing that these scissors will cut my ribbon and do a nice clean edge and cut my wire. I still find it amazing. And I've been using them forever now. Okay, so a couple shoestring bows for the big one. And then I did a small, and actually I tied that one on directly. Okay, so, and then I cut a piece here, and they'll cut straight if you make a point to do it. So I put these two together, and with the seam binding, it doesn't matter where the tails are. With another ribbon, you would want to be sure of your placement for that, but with these, it doesn't matter. And what I did was I put the two of them in there, and I'm going to have to turn it where I can see it a little better, and I tied a knot. And then I took my wad, or actually I trimmed it, and you're going to trim your tails just wherever you want them. This is loose. The one thing I do, even though I'm not being perfect on these, and I never am on this type of bow, I do make sure, I like my things at an edge. And if mine are ever flat, you know it was definitely by design. That for whatever reason I wanted that flat, because I like them at an angle. And then I added a touch of water to give it a little bit of crinkle. When you're doing this, go light-handed, because although you have gesso, this pink, remember, is just the color bloom, and you don't want it to move too much. The other thing is if you want to make sure your color bloom doesn't move, you could always go back and add a fixative or something over the top to hold it. And this one I've tied just directly around it. And because I did want it asymmetrical, I did do a little bow on this one. So this one I was a little bit, because it's small, and I don't have the layers, so this one I did try to get a little bit more with the tails, because I don't have all the extra stuff going on, so it's not going to balance out as easy with only 2 loops and 2 tails. And again, to give it a little bit of crinkle, a little bit of water. And that is it, y'all. That is all there is to this. And it really, like I said, with the exception of the fussy cutting, it really goes together that quickly. And you can definitely make it fast. Okay, let's see if I can get back to my face. Let's see. This is where it gets interesting. Yay. Okay, we can. Let's see. 5 minutes over. Not too bad. All right, y'all. Well, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Don't forget to tune in and see Karen next week. If you have any questions, be sure to Facebook me. And don't forget to go over to Flying Unicorn and look in the store to see what you can get on sale for all the stuff that I used tonight. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.